Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast where we talk openly and honestly with the goal of normalizing mental health conversations. I'm MommaFoxFire, and in today's episode, I'll be exploring the intersection of music production and mental health with featured guest Heroek. For many artists, music can be a powerful outlet for expressing emotions, dealing with trauma, and finding meaning in their life experiences. But the process of creating music can also be mentally and emotionally taxing, with long hours, tight deadlines, high expectations, and just the daily grind. In this episode, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges faced by music producers and explore how mental health issues can impact their work and well-being. Heroek shares his personal story and struggle with mental health issues, and we will talk about how he found ways to cope. If you're a musician or you simply love music, this episode is for you. I hope you will find some valuable insights and inspiration to help you navigate the ups and downs of life in the music industry and take care of your mental health along the way. Sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the fascinating world of music production and mental health on Even Tacos Fall Apart. Because even when tacos do fall apart, there's always a beat to keep us moving forward. To find everything just the right way. Okay, hello and welcome back to another Mental Health Monday. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited about our conversation. The topic tonight is music production and mental health. We're going to talk a little bit generally about music and mental health as well. So really excited today to be joined by Heroek. Heroek is a young music producer and podcast host who moved from Los Angeles to New York at 13 years old. After that move, he struggled with leaving behind almost everything and everyone that he knew. But during his hard readjustment period, he found himself struggling with his own mental health, as well as seeing those around him work through their own problems. On top of all this, he's dealt with anxieties and insecurities about his experience due to severe eczema. And soon after moving, he found comfort in his favorite band's then recent album, which we are going to talk about a little bit. And it made him fall in love with the production side of music and the connection that could exist between music and storytelling. So he started making mashups, which turned into remixing songs. And finally, now he releases original music on his YouTube channel and Spotify. On top of that, he also hosts his own podcast called Hero's Journey. On that show, he interviews mostly music artists, but also anyone in the public eye to discuss how they got to that point they are in their career, and often the mental health connections behind that journey, which is something that we talk about a lot here. Now his goal is to continue making music of his own, as well as with collaborators that help sends a message of positivity and improving one's mental health. So thank you, Heroek. Thank you for being here today and joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Excited to, talk about my music, my journey, and yeah.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's really cool when we have people who it's like, my mental health inspired this passion in me, which is really cool. I mean, it's not something most of the time when you hear, oh, my mental health impacted my career choice, it's like they became a therapist or something like that. So I'm really excited to talk about music with you tonight. I think it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah.
So what do you love about making and producing music in general, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you found?
For what I love about it, it's really just a lot of, like, when I was younger, I loved music just from, like, the sound, the bonding it could provide people. Like, if you play like, pop music, dance music, everyone's having a good time, everyone's dancing. But as I got older, I sort of realized that it also has a great, like, storytelling potential as well. And so once I discovered songs that were, like, really being honest about, like, life experiences or even telling fictional stories, I just fell in love with it even more. And when you make music like that, when you make honest music, it's creating a connection between, like, the artist and the fan. Because if an artist makes music about mental health or any other experience and the fan resonates with that, they already have that connection in common, and you're just getting a connection with another person. It doesn't have to be like a celebrity to fan relationship. As for challenges, it's I feel like being basically independent, like almost everything I do is just by me. It's hard to mix and master songs so that they sound good in all mediums, I guess. So, like, there have been songs that I put out and that are still out now where like I've listened to them in my headphones and it was great. Put them through some speakers and it was great. And then like once it was released, I was driving and it came on my car and you just like almost cannot hear the vocals and I was like,
Oh.
okay, that's too bad. And just like, but that's a learning experience. That's something I'm going to learn, and yeah, because it's a big deal for me to sort of stay independent and like have the main creative hand in all the music that I make.
Do you have like a mentor who's kind of helping you with that sort of thing at all?
Um, Not any one mentor. I took a class my freshman year of high school that really got me into music production and like, you know, starting to learn about GarageBand, Logic, that sort of those softwares. And in a couple months, I'll be going off to college for music production, so I'll have plenty of mentors there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's something that if you can find somebody who will answer questions, that's something that
Yeah.
is really valuable no matter what industry you're in. And that's something I don't work anywhere related to music or anything like that, but that's something that I stress to our every time we have a new employee. I'm like, find you someone who you really get along with, who you can just ask questions. Like if that's me, great. If it's not me, that's fine too. Just find that person that you can always ask those questions. So I'm glad to hear you say like the positives are the connections and then the negatives are something that you can totally improve on. Like that's something you can fix and learn. That's really cool.
Yeah. And like I don't have any mentor figures, but like with my podcast that you mentioned, I've met other music artists and just like small things like if you know I want to get my music out to different platforms because I had like YouTube and a couple other platforms on my own, but I really wanted it to like be available anywhere. So I asked one of them like, "What like do you have a distribution service? Do you know like distributors?" And then just help me through that process to start getting my music heard. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's good that you have, people you can ask about that stuff. And that does remind me, I did not post all of your socials on here. So here is Heroek's YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Twitch. If you want to connect with him at all offline, feel free to click through to any of those. Listen to some music, that kind of thing.
Yeah, listen to the music, or even like if it moves you enough to talk about it, email me, DM me. I'm always open to talking to fans about my music or anything else.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
So I'm not a giant true crime fan, but I do love like history and especially like weird or like underground history. And so one thing that I sort of was reminded of like when that question was brought up, you got quite the light show going
It'll
on.
stop in a second.
Is I remember there was a like a I guess you'd call it just like a soldier. His name was a Simo Hauha. I hope I'm saying that right. He was Finnish, so from Finland. But he was nicknamed the White Death because he was like a super good hunter and joined the Finnish military. And at some point, and I think like the early 40s, I hope that's right. Early 40s, Russia attacked Finland, and they deployed this guy Simo for 100 days. In those 100 days, he killed over 500 like Russians, which was insane. That's more than
gosh.
And his best day was recorded as like around 25, which is just insane. And like being near like Russia, Finland, that area, it was super cold. Mm-hmm. And he was a pretty small dude also, so that helped him like stay stealthy. And he would like hide in small places in the snow and like wear all white to blend in. And he was seen like as like a stealth genius almost because he had all these tricks like when he'd be like shooting, he'd pack snow in around his gun, so like the snow wouldn't be like blown away or disturbed when he shot. And he when he was in the field, he'd like chew on snow so they couldn't even see his breath. And
Wow.
yeah, and then the best thing is like at some point during his service, he was shot with an explosive bullet, I think, and lived, which I don't know how anyone does that, but he was shot with an explosive and lived, which blows my mind. So yeah, that's just little like fun history facts like that are my bread and butter.
Yeah, there are a couple of like soldier type stories from Europe that fascinate me. I haven't heard of this one, but there's the one who took all the drugs. Like they gave him a bunch of drugs and they were like, okay, if you need to get through a day, here, take one of these pills. And he took like 20 of them and wound up 100 miles away and then had to go 100 miles back and like all kinds of crazy. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah, those stories are really cool. You are, I will say, like, you are a little young to be on the true crime side yet, I think.
Yeah.
Which is probably good, but that's okay.
I'm also the type of person who I hear that and it's like, wow, that's a little too realistic. That could happen to me. I don't like that.
Well, and to me, that's like, okay, that's realistic. It happened to a normal human being like me. Like, what could I have done differently if that was happening to me, kind of thing. So for me, it's like okay, I'm not. All right, so you have to be careful
not
to like obsess
or like
over it. Yeah, but it's just like, okay,
I didn't think of it that way.
Aware.
That's cool, actually. That's cool, actually. I didn't think of it that way.
I do kind of wonder if more women are into true crime than men for that particular reason, where it's like, okay, preparedness, because we just have it drilled into us from such a young age.
I don't know if that's the reason, but I definitely think that's probably true. That more women than men like true crime.
It could be. I have no idea. I don't have statistics on that at all.
Yeah, me neither. Not professionals.
No. The light show was Bite Mark resubscribing. So, Bite, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Folks on the podcast, you got to watch live to see the light show. Sorry. So, you and your family moved from one coast to another. Was there anything positive that you got out of that move, or was it all just kind of like struggleville in your experience at 13 years old?
Right afterwards was pretty hard. You know, it was like, I, at the time, was a pretty shy and introverted person. I was sort of like, go to school, come home, music, gaming, and that was music and gaming basically ran my life. But after a while, you know, I've now like made friends, made connections, and developed my like passion for music production, realizing that it's what I want to do. So that's like, it really, I think, helped make me who I am today, because I don't think I'd be as social as I am without it.
I like that. But at the time, so when you were 13, did it just seem like the end of the world, or were you hopeful?
I gave my parents a slideshow presentation on why we should stay in California rather than New York.
Oh, if my kids did that, I would probably stay. I'd probably be like, sorry, you've convinced me. PowerPoint is like my kryptonite.
Yeah.
I love that. So what did you have in your PowerPoint?
Probably a lot of made up statistics. I know I BS'd that the crime rate was higher in New York City, as if we were moving to like downtown Manhattan, which we were not. I was like, I'm gonna get robbed on the street. They're like, we're going to a suburb. And yeah, I can't remember anything else. Probably some made up statistic about it being more expensive. I have no clue.
Yeah. Yep. Bite Marker said, Mom, here's a spreadsheet comparing the old house to the new one. Clearly we should stay. You're not wrong. A spreadsheet would also convince me. Those are spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. I mean,
see, at the time I was 13, spreadsheets were boring number stuff and slideshows were fun, colorful photo stuff.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. We were planning a family vacation and we were trying to pick all the places to go. And this was just like a couple weeks ago. And so we're looking at all these things together. And finally I was like, we're looking at a dozen different places. My mom's sending places. My dad is sending places. I'm sending places. My brother-in-law is sending places. And I was like, I can't keep them all in my head. So I made a spreadsheet. I put everything in the spreadsheet. You gotta gauge the options. And then both my mom and my sister were like, thank God you did it, because I was going to have to. Yeah, presentations are more fun, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in your bio that your favorite band released a new album around the time of your move. What band was that? What album was that? And what about those songs really spoke to you?
Yeah, so I have, somewhere around here, I have a vinyl of that band, not the album, but 21 Pilots is my favorite band by far. And the album that they had just come out with was Trench, their album, which is a big, like, fictional storytelling lore sort of album. And it was like that storytelling aspect is what really did it for me, because it opened a whole world of like this fictional story, and like speculation and theories let me connect with like other fans online. And just whereas most of the time it's like a new album comes out, I'll listen to the music, know the lyrics, and that's sort of it. Now it just goes into like my back catalog. This one, I got to do all that, and then there was more. I had like a story to dissect, people to talk about it with, and it just helped sort of make the experience last longer.
That's really cool. I like 21 Pilots for what it's worth.
Yeah,
I know not everybody does, but they're a good band. I like their songs.
It's not for everyone, but it's definitely for me, right up my alley.
Yep. Well, I can see, I don't know what all is on that album, but some of their songs are really touching. So I could definitely see if some of the songs that I'm thinking of were on there, like that. It had, what's the one? It's like, I'm stressed. It's the Stressed Out song. That's the one that I'm thinking of specifically.
Yeah, one of their hits. One of their hits.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's
they have. I don't think people realize like how many hits they have, because I'll tell people like, yeah, favorite band's 21 Pilots, and they're like, I don't know them, and I'm like, Stressed Out Heathens, and they're like, oh, they made those, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely know who it is, even if you don't recognize the name, which is good for me, because that's how I am with most things. It's like, yeah, I know that song. I could sing it forever, but I can't tell you who sings it or the name of the song. Sorry. So Bite has a question in the chat. She says, what is your favorite poem?
Not too much of a poetry guy, but sticking with our 21 Pilots talk, I think if Tyler Joseph, the frontman of that, ever started doing poetry, I'd be a big fan, because he has great, I mean, he's great with like words and lyrics musically, but I feel like his way with words in general, just like listening to him like speak in interviews or whatnot, really, he puts everything in a way that's so simple, but like he'll have like such a deep question, and he can either answer it with like this great answer, or he can like crack a hilarious joke, and I just love he's a master with words.
Do you have a favorite 21 Pilots song?
Oh boy. I think I like them so much. I don't think I have a favorite song, but I do have like favorite songs from each album. So I'll stick to their most recent album, Scaled and Icy. I think my favorite song would be The Outside, because that's an awesome song. It has a little bit of lore for fans who like that. It has just a nice pop rap vibe for people who like that. So definitely that, like, as soon as I heard the first couple seconds of that listening through the album, I was like, oh, this is it, because it has a sick beat also.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that one. I put a link to it in the chat so I can go back to it. But Bite says she counts songs as poems, so that counts.
Okay, there we go.
That's perfect. Are there any artists or albums that you feel everyone could find some meaning in if they were to listen to it, kind of irrespective of their personal music taste, maybe?
Yeah. I would say 21 Pilots, again, their album Blurry Face, which has most of their hits. I mean, like I said, with hits, like that's sort of the point of the hit. Anyone can enjoy it. They got, Heavy Dirty Soul on there, Stressed Out, Tearing My Heart, songs that, like, again, people might not know 21 Pilots, but I put those on and they're like, yep, I know this.
Yeah.
But also just because it has just feel good songs. It has songs with meaning. It has rap and rock sections. It has moments of just like calm acoustic piano. Yeah, and so I feel like it can really fit no matter what sort of music you're into.
Yeah, there is something about if you can find a band who touches on a little bit of everything, and if they've got all of that in one album, that's even better.
Yeah. One album is a bit of a stretch, but 21 Pilots definitely, I feel, touches everything. They've made me cry and they've made me dance. So
yes. Yep. I mean, to me, it's David Bowie. Like, if you can't find some meaning in at least one David Bowie song, I don't know what you're doing.
I do like some Bowie. I'm not a giant Bowie fan, but I have a couple songs saved.
But so his range is so large, right? Like, he's got the fucking weird shit over here, and then like the normal mainstream stuff over here, and everything in between.
Yeah.
All right, so only because 21 Pilots were mentioned and I have a pet theory, do you listen to Watsky? I love Watsky, personally.
Watsky? I don't think I've even heard of that. Like, not to say I wouldn't like them or anything, but I'll definitely check them out because I'm always open to new music. It's just Watsky. How do you spell that?
Watsky.
All right.
He did the. I think he. Okay, so I remember that he was trying to do the world's longest freestyle, and it was like
that's cool.
24 hours or something or longer. I don't even remember how long it was. It was insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, he did do it. Okay, all right, cool. I'm like, I hope I'm remembering that right.
Yeah, no, that's a sick concept. So.
Yeah, and he live streamed it and everything, so it was like really cool. But his music is wonderful. He rapped for 33 hours, 33 minutes, and 19 seconds, beating the previous record by over 7 hours.
Dang. So he didn't just do it to beat it. He went,
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you got the record. He was like, no, let me keep going.
Yeah, let's go even longer. Which is great. What made you decide to start creating and producing music after you moved? You can kind of listen to and appreciate it, but not many people go in from, hey, I really like this song, great lyrics, really connecting, to I'm actually going to do this myself. And how did you get started doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, like, it was that interest in Trench and 21 Pilots, but I think alone that wouldn't have made me start making music. The sort of catalyst, I think, it was the digital music class I took as a freshman that I mentioned. It introduced me to different digital audio workstations like GarageBand, Logic. I think it had a little bit of Ableton, but I didn't use it much. And then, so I started making mashups from there because, I loved two different songs. I think the one, so it was a partner project. So I worked with someone else, and I think we did, Ride by 21 Pilots and some Imagine Dragons song, but I can't remember which one.
All right.
But it was awesome. And like after we turned it in, like I just wanted to do like try out more. So I went home and just on like my own computer started doing it. And so yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that it was something at school that got you into it, because they offer so many different courses and things now in high school. I think it's really important that those get recognition for being something that can really spark a kid's interest in something.
And I think it's, you know, I'll be off and away at college at this point, so it's a little late for me. But like earlier this year, because like after that year we had COVID affect basically every year of my high school, and so I came back this year and I was like, great, you know, senior year, no COVID effects, like let's go. Can I do another digital music class? Is there another level? And they were like, that's actually the only like music tech class we have, but we're working on getting more in the future. And I was like, got it. That's too bad, but I'm glad that students in the future are gonna get it.
Yeah. You know, you might, I don't know, since you're going into like actually study this shit, it probably doesn't matter, but you might look at, I know that Harvard and a couple of other of the major like Ivy League colleges do free courses in all kinds of things. Like Harvard just put out a new computer science course that's completely free. You get a certificate from it. There's no like, you know, you don't get a course credit for it, but it's a free class that you can take from some of the best educators in the world. So you want to see if they have something free. They might.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah. From a mental health standpoint, there are studies showing that 73% of independent music creators, so not just like folks in the industry, but people who are actually making music, suffer from symptoms of mental illness, especially anxiety and depression. What do you do personally to protect your own mental health as a creator?
You know, that's a great question. I think for me and people that I know have had similar struggles, connections and having people that you can talk to is super important. You know, if you have good friendships, those work, but like not even that. Like if you have family that you're close to, it's great if it's parents, but even like if you have that one cool cousin or like the fun uncle that you can talk to, like do that. If it has to be like a therapist, professional help, that works. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, just connections. And I mean, on top of that, like for me personally, you were saying that's one thing I do, but another is using my mental health and whatnot as just like content or ideas for music. And so in that way, like just making music in general helps my mental health. It helps me get those thoughts out. When I talk to other people who have mental health issues on my podcast, that sort of combines the two. I'm connecting with someone, and you know, it's helping me put it into content, putting into something useful and helpful.
Yeah, I know that sometimes, especially as a content creator, you can also get a little bit burnt out whenever it's like, okay, I'm going to just draw from this and put it into this. And it's like, it's good that you can do that. You also have to be a little careful with your own energy, because then it's like everything is content, right? And then it's that like you hit that wall a lot faster when everything is content and nothing is personal. And yeah, I mean, having connections around you, you know, my sister was over here today, and we didn't always get along. All right. My sister and I did not always get along. She knows
Siblings
this.
not getting along. Crazy.
Yeah. Right. And we're 2 years apart. And so we were very close at times, and we were very just like butting heads at times. So she was over here today, and I got a package, and I opened it up, and I put my hand into it. And I took my hand out. I said, okay, put your hand in this, but don't look. And she just did it. Like she just put her hand into it, and it was a very soft, fuzzy thing. And so it was a nice thing because I know that she likes soft, fuzzy things. And she goes, man, that just shows how far our relationship has come, that you say, put your hand in this and don't look. And I just put my hand because I trust you.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a sibling that you can connect to if you have siblings. And if it's a parent, that's great too. If it's a friend, that's great too. But yeah, I mean, you also mentioned therapy, and that's something that if you don't have those connections around you, you can't build those connections around you. First of all, online connections, we've talked about those extensively on the show. Online social connections are as impactful as in-person social connections. So you can build those also through things like Discord, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, however you want to build them. But make sure that they're a genuine connection. And then, therapy. If you really don't have any connections, therapy is something that's really, really important.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it. Online connections work too. If you've never met the person, if you don't know what they look like, that's fine. As long as you can text them in some way, talk to them, like just have conversation and discourse about it with someone.
Yep, another living
cares.
human being. Yeah, who cares about the same things that you care about? Absolutely. So the music industry has a pretty known culture of self-medication, drug abuse, and that kind of thing. Is that something that you've seen yourself? And do you think that that's driven by the industry in some ways, or is it just something that happens to coincide?
Yeah, no, I just had a long conversation about this on my last podcast episode. Not, I wouldn't say the music industry as a whole. I'd say the big ones that it affects are like hip hop and rap. And that's definitely a problem because there are chart topping rap songs all the time that are talking about these things like drugs and women and money and all these other material things. And like I said, those are the ones at the top of the charts. And so if someone's just like, yeah, let's play, let me check out what's trending now when radios are like top hits for today, those are the songs that get played and get featured and often have the most like promotion or appeal. Like what's one of Spotify's biggest playlists, Rap Caviar, all about rap music, hip hop, which has this big theme throughout a lot of it. So in a long-winded way, yes, it's a problem, but if you take the time to actually like look at music you like, artists you like, songs that have a message, you can find songs that are positive, you can find songs about bettering your mental health, you can find the exact opposite songs who are like condemning that type of talk with like that gets into some more like Christian music and whatnot. Anything you're into, go explore it and check it out. You don't have to just deal with the hip hop and rap and whatnot that Spotify feeds you. Not to say that I don't like hip hop and rap, don't get me wrong, it's one of my most streamed genres, but there's a difference between like me liking hip hop and rap and then me really liking conscious hip hop and rap with like a better message talking about good things and not that. And the connection that I don't want to get to, and unfortunately some people get to, is hearing these hip hop and rap songs talk about it and believing that that's cool or that's what I should do and going out and doing that, because that's not always the case and it's usually actually a pretty bad thing to do. And one thing a big mental health conversation I had on my podcast was about Juice World and his whole situation, which, like, I mean, I wasn't like listening to him. I wasn't a big fan of him while he was here, but when his first like posthumous album came out, I just tried it out and listened to it, and hearing like some of the things he was, or like, this might sound a little nerdy or emotional, but like the literal like pain in his voice, I was like, how did no one catch this? How did no one around him or in the studio or friends and family like take care of him and talk to him? And I got super into like his whole story, watched the documentary on about him, and like by the end of it, it seemed like he was, I mean, under the influence of something almost all the time, like definitely more than not.
So what's the documentary about him?
It's music. I think it's just called Music Box Juice World. On HBO Max.
Okay.
I think there's a subtitle of like
Into the Abyss.
Hitting the bottom. Yeah, Into the Abyss. That's
okay.
it.
All right.
I remember some sort of like deep bottom something
something like that.
You say it's been a while, but yeah, Into the Abyss.
One to watch for sure. I don't know anything about Juice World at all, but
it takes you so many ways. I didn't really know much. It'll show you like his talent with music. It'll show you his personality when he's happy, and then it'll show you like the problems he was facing. It gives you like all angles and everything. And just like hearing all these other music artists who worked with him talking about him now, the thing you hear over and over again is like his musical genius, his freestyling, the fact that, you know, I think it was the Chainsmokers. He has a song with them that hasn't come out yet, but one of the Chainsmokers was saying that like, yeah, they were in the studio and not even a song or anything. One of the Chainsmokers just had a guitar playing around. He hadn't like written it, he was just like finding something, and he played a certain like chord progression or something, and Juice WRLD Gerard, he was like, put that on, I got something for it right now. It was like, what? I like, that's not, and he was like, nope, put it on, and he like freestyled a song, and then he finished and he was like, go back, I want to do another take, and he did that. And so like hearing these stories about just how motivated and how much talent he had and couldn't share with the world is just so sad to me, because I really think he had way more messages to send and way more hits and great music to make.
Yeah. So as someone in the music industry, we've talked about the connections, we've talked about kind of mental health and lyrics about mental health. So how do you feel like the stigma around mental illness and talking about mental health is within the music industry?
It's definitely becoming more welcome, not as much as this of a stigma. Artists like 21 Pilots, Billie Eilish, AJR, they're being honest with their lyrics, their songs, opening up about struggles they have, and just like in interviews as well, not necessarily even in their music, just as long as they're public in some way. And so that's great, because it having such big artists talk about things helps show that like it's okay, and talking about these things won't, maybe it was true at a point, but thankfully it's no longer the case, that talking about these things won't bar you from having a successful career. You can be a chart topping signed artist at the top of the industry and talk about these things. And lots of independent artists are making vulnerable, honest music that I also think lowers the stigma, because, you know, it's, I have no stats or anything, but I feel like a lot of independent stuff that I hear is about mental health, it's about experiences. And with this big push to highlight independent music, it's helping get, you know, talent and music artists found, but I think it's also indirectly pushing a lot of mental health and mental positivity songs out there, which I really like.
It's really neat to see, as a mother, the representation in songs and in artists also. I mean, you talked about it not even having to be in the song itself, but just the artist being open and honest about their own struggles, because, you know, when it came out that Billie Eilish has Tourette's, it's like, okay, that's one more person I can say to my 9-year-old, look, you could be this, which fortunately his neurologist has Tourette's also. So I've always been like, you can still be a brain surgeon. You can be a freaking brain surgeon with what you have. Like, it's okay. Everything's fine. But it's like the more touch points you can have, the better with that kind of thing.
Oh,
so
definitely. Yeah.
Matters.
I'm not a big, like, haven't gone super into his music, but Louis Capaldi, I just learned like 2 days ago that he has Tourette's, which blew my mind. Cause yeah, I had no clue. And then I saw a video of him performing, and it seems like he has pretty good control of his tics. He keeps them pretty minimal on stage. But like, it blew my mind because I had no clue that someone like him would have it. And yeah, Billie Eilish too. Like, unfortunately, I'm a big fan of hers too. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to see her live in concert, but I've like watched concert videos online. And like she like seems she doesn't seem like she has Tourette's. You wouldn't look at her and be like, wow, look at this person with Tourette's. You would just see her as, a musician, as a music artist, a big artist. And yeah, so I think it's great that these sorts of things are coming out more, and that AJR is also another example. I brought up Jack from AJR. He has like an interview talking about his OCD and what that actually means, and how he's like, I tell people I have OCD and they're like, oh, I feel like I know you pretty well and I couldn't tell. And he's like, but it's not like Tourette's or something that's like physical or visible. It's habits and routines and something all in his head. And so yeah, just more vulnerability, transparency, and I don't even know what the word would be for it, accessibility, would like be reasons that it's lowering the stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it. I think that everybody should be talking about the struggles that they're facing. How is anybody going to know, that you need some extra support if you don't talk about it openly? So, I think the stigma is
just a quick thing. Yeah, I mean, Juice WRLD, like it talks about it in this documentary. If he wasn't talking about these things in his songs, if he didn't have friends and a team around him, the documentary shows that like he was like hiding pills from people around him. He'd like keep them hidden in his bedroom and would like say like, yep, I don't have anything. He'd like everything on his person, he'd give it to someone, and then he'd just go in there and take it. And it's like, you really can never know for a fact unless someone's being open and honest with you. And so
yeah, absolutely. So on a more like positive note, I guess, creating music and music in general has really positive health effects. And for creators who are working on music, that is things like improved memory and brain function and better speech processing and increased empathy. There are risks as well, like eye strain, headaches, poor posture, mostly, physical related to pushing yourself so hard to make it in the industry pretty much. Have you found a flow of balance that really works for you in that regard?
yes, not because I'm conscientious of like workflow, not because I like make myself take a break from music, just because I'm still a high school student. Like, I have other aspects to my life. I unfortunately have schoolwork that I have to do at home. I have a social life. I've played sports with my school and outside of school, so that's taken time. And so like just having other facets that I'm involved in, other interests, makes it so that, yeah, maybe music's my favorite one, maybe it's my main one, maybe I spend a lot of time on it, but I'm not obsessing over it or spending too much of my time on it. I have a good balance, and I mean, I'm also just like a giant fan of work-life balance. So
Good. That's good. I mean, I would encourage you as you get older and out of school and everything, like think about what that breakdown of this much time is spent on sports, this much time was spent on school, this much time was spent on just basic care and taking of you kind of thing. And try to incorporate that into your adult life too, because it is really, really important to have that as an adult. Like you can, of course, go to work and come home and do whatever it is you do after work, and that could be it. But if you can still incorporate something like a sport or activity and something like, okay, these are the times I'm going to go be social, and it's really important to have that balance. So keep that attitude for sure.
And I do that a lot because, like I mentioned earlier, I, for much of my life, have been for a long time, I was a big introvert, and now I'm getting out there more. I'm more social, but still like to be on my own for a bit. And so, like, when I'm scheduling things, I'll have, like, let's say I have some homework to do, a podcast or two, and then hanging out with a friend. When I'm scheduling podcasts and like managing that, I'm consciously like making sure there's a chunk of time in between, because knowing myself, I just really don't like, back to back to back, go, go, go things all the time. I recently had a day where it just had to be like that, just because everything was like, not even like I couldn't really stop it. Everything just sort of happened at once. Um, and so I got over that and had it, and it was okay in the moment. I was like, great. And then like that night when I was getting ready for bed, I was like, I am exhausted. Thank God I have such like an open day tomorrow. There's no way I can do that back to back. And it's not to say that I need to like do nothing for a while. It's like if I'm sitting there on my own making music, if I'm sitting there on my own, like reaching out to people about coming on my podcast, that just like silent solo work like that can also help me just calm down and re-energize a bit.
Decompress some. Yeah.
Yeah, which is great because I love that I can be, a little tired, do something productive like send emails about podcasting, and then come out more energized. So.
Yeah. That's good. I, just on like the same topic there, my advice to you and to all young people, all you young whippersnappers out there, don't sacrifice sleep. Sleep is not the thing to sacrifice.
Please don't. I get made fun of it playfully a lot between friends and family. I'm an early riser, not because I have this get up and grind mentality, but just because I naturally get up early. And so, I'm going to bed earlier than most of my friends, but then I'm getting up earlier than most of them. And, it happened a lot, especially like I saw a lot of the positives of this during the pandemic. Like during virtual schooling, I'd wake up and I'd sort of just like, it's early, so I'd just eat breakfast, knock out any like offline work I had to do, have a class or two, and then it's like 1 p.m. and I have nothing for the rest of the day. And I'm like, this is great. And like I heard someone else talk about it. It was a little different because they were like someone who like sets an alarm and like was getting themselves into this habit of doing it. And they were like, it feels like time travel almost, because I eat breakfast, I get some work done, I've had some of my day, and just now other people are waking up. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Like knowing that I've been productive and have gotten a start and other people are just now waking up really makes me feel good and productive.
I love that. I am not a morning person. My 16-year-old is not a morning person. My 9-year-old is a morning person. Like 5 a.m., he's awake. His alarm, he has an alarm in his room to tell him when he's allowed to get out of bed. Because he would get up way earlier. He would be like 3:30 in the morning, time to wake up for the day. It's insane. He goes to bed at 8 o'clock. If he goes to bed later, if I let him stay up even until 9, he's going to be so cranky the next day because he just gets up early. That's all that it is. So there are, as you're saying, you're one of the rare ones who just naturally gets up early, which is great.
Naturally gets up early, but I do also go to bed earlier. It's not like I'm on like the go to bed at midnight or 1, wake up at 8 schedule. Like I'm going to bed at like, earlier than that.
Yeah. Yep, and that's totally fair. Okay, we got off topic, so I'm gonna bring us back a little bit.
Please do. Please.
Yes. How do you come up with lyrics that are related to mental health and are authentic or genuine? How do you do that?
I talk about my life. I'm honest about like my experiences and what's happened to me, because if they're honest, true moments I've gone through, thoughts I've had, and so I know what it feels like. I know how to say it. I know all these things about it. I know that it's true. I don't have to wonder if the artist is making it up. And I think anyone, if you write about your own experiences, not only will it be like true, just like factually true, but you'll also be saying it in a way that's never been heard before. It will be unique to you the way that you put it, because maybe you like I'm not breaking news, I'm not the first person to move from California to New York, but like no one else has the exact same music or songs that I have. And so if you just say what you're thinking or use your thoughts and experiences in some productive way, it's going to be unique because no one else processes it or had the same thoughts as you.
I love that. It's going to be unique no matter how you put it in a song, because it's yours. If you're, not stealing other people's lyrics, which you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to just be able to put a piece of yourself into the music, is what it sounds like to me that you're doing. You're just kind of taking a little piece of you and putting it into the music, and that's what makes it genuine.
Well, and I had to learn, like, the last solo thing I put out that wasn't with a collaborator was an album that, I mean, I can be honest, isn't great, but I've told this story privately before. I don't think anywhere on the internet, but so you're getting a little exclusive here.
Hey.
But I was making the album, and I had most of the songs done or like at a good point, and I just kept like making up reasons to put it off. I was like, at the time it was like, oh, I have to study for the ACT. I can't do music. And then an hour later, I'm playing video games, and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't make it because I was busy. And then once I like sat down and got into like a daily habit of working on it again, it was like, come up with something. No, that's not quite right. Let me try this instead. And like making all these changes until it was like quote unquote perfect, but it's never going to be perfect. And so at some point in retrospect, maybe not the smartest idea, but I put on like the calendar a release date for it. Not that I like announced it anywhere, but I just put like a release date. It's like, you know what? It's coming out this day. Better work and do whatever I can to have it out by then. And so that's when I really like kicked it into 10th gear, started working really hard on it, doing whatever last changes I could, and I put it out, and yeah, it doesn't sound the best. It's not the best album. I wish it could be better, but my fear was that if I didn't just get something out or get it out, it wouldn't have come out. I would have just let it go into the vault, which is a real thing that I have. I have like all these instrumentals and whatnot that I just have let sit there, I guess, because I haven't used them for anything or thought that they were good. So I didn't want that to happen because it was a solo album. It had like vocals, whereas my first thing was more instrumental. It had a story, and I was like, no, this is too good to let it go to waste. So I'm just gonna put it out, even if it's not the greatest, because I knew having a bad version of that album out was better than not putting that album out. And people are going to and have told me, like, this doesn't sound the best, and I'm like, yeah, I know, it's something that I'm working on, or something that I had already started to work on like right after it came out. And so I'm just happy that like I got that done and put out before I bailed on it.
Yeah, there's the quote. I think it gets attributed to Mark Twain quite a bit, but I don't know who actually said it. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good, or good enough. So sometimes you have to put those deadlines on things to be like, this is my personal deadline.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, tell listeners about it. I didn't put it on social media anywhere. Technically, I didn't have to follow it, but I did. And so, yeah. And I think just throughout that, like, I lost what the question was for a bit, but now I think I'm starting to get it back from talking about it. Like the first couple songs I made on that were okay. They weren't great. Like lyrically, it was a lot of like I would write out just sentences or thoughts, and then I was like, okay, now let's wordsmith this to make it rhyme or like make it a song. And I think that's what a lot of the songs are, until some of the ones that were made later, not necessarily come later on the album, but that were made later. And like I think I can't remember at what point I made it, but the song on there is called Paralyzed that I have. I think that's my best written song. It sounds the most like a song. It has chorus verse, it has repetition, it has song lines rather than just like long sentences that were turned into that. So it's ambiguous and not just telling you straight up what the message is. And so that's, I think, like the point that I'm trying to build off of now for any solo stuff I do from now on.
Yeah. How do you decide what order songs go onto an album in?
So for my first EP, it was 7 songs, 6 of which were basically instrumental, and so that one didn't matter too much. I would say about halfway through like the creation process, I actually, let me not make this a random collection of instrumentals. Let me put a story behind it, even if it's a sonic story, not lyrically. But like the mood of the songs sort of tells a story. Then there was one song that had vocals that really tells a story, and it was the title track also. So the name of the EP is I'm Sad But It's Different, and the name of the song is I'm Sad But It's Different, and I put it as the last song because it really had the most meaning, and it was the first time I had my voice in a song, and then a couple weeks before I put it out, yeah, probably like a week and a half before I put it out, I got like, I started second guessing like my voice, and so put like a lot of vocal effects on it to sort of make it sound like an alien voice or robotic, which at the time was just like stylistic and cool and hiding my real voice. But then it turned out for this album that I came out with, I sort of built off that, and like the music that inspired me, this album Cerebria has a fictional story going on, so that gave me some structure. Um, it uses a mixture of my real voice and this alien robotic voice, which is a different character. And then there are a couple like interlude tracks, I guess you would call it. So those, it really just started to take shape naturally. I knew I wanted an introduction track that sort of gave you the sense like, okay, there's going to be a story here. I knew I wanted a conclusion track that was going to wrap up that story. I knew these four interlude tracks were going to be spaced out somehow. I didn't know how, but spaced out somehow. And then the rest of it was just writing songs, seeing what came out. Not too many of the other songs have like clear fictional storyline substance, but I played around with the order a bit. And like as you go through, mostly from the interlude tracks, you'll get the story, but also from these normal songs, there's like a connection or two. And honestly, like I feel like this happens with 21 Pilots, so maybe it ends up happening with me. Like the family members have listened to that music and like asked me about it, and I'm like, you're reading way too far into it. I never would have thought of that. And so yeah, they were like, oh, does this line in this song connect with this sound here? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no, they're two different songs. But yeah, please go listen through that album, listen to some of my other stuff, because a lot of the newer stuff's better, but listen to that stuff because it has a story, which I think entertains, and listen to it because it's, where a lot of music artists, I'm sure, start. So
yeah, absolutely. You have a podcast yourself. Can you tell us about starting that podcast and what it's about and all of that good stuff?
Yes, I can. It evolved a lot. I started it during the pandemic. I'm a big basketball fan, NBA fan specifically. Go Lakers! And I loved basketball. Loved talking about it. Loved watching it, and being inside around just my family. I think a couple months in, they had kind of had enough of me talking about basketball. And so I was like, you know what? Everyone's doing a pandemic project. I'll start a podcast talking about basketball. And I just did it solo, talking about like my thoughts on recent headlines, recent games for the NBA. And then I sort of wanted to shift, and at the time it was called Nothing But Internet Podcast, with like inter in parentheses, so it was like nothing but
Nothing
net.
but net, yep.
And so I was like, you know what, let me, like, I'm really trying here, and all my episodes are like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It'd be so much easier if it was like a conversation sort of thing with someone else. So I started reaching out to basketball players, coaches, people involved with the sport who might come on, and that just ended up, I don't even know like at what point I made this change, but just started saying like screw it and reaching out to like all kinds of celebrities and people. And when I found that, like, music artists were probably my number one response, people like like content creators or comedians were like my number two. And then there were like a small number of athletes that would respond. I was like, okay, maybe I gotta change this up a bit. And that's sort of when it became Hero's journey and was more about just, um, getting to the point in their career and the story behind that, because it's a little nerdy, but in English class at the time, we had just talked about the hero's journey story template, I guess. And so I was like, yeah, that's cool. My name's Heroic. It matches the theme. And so I just made it Hero's Journey and started talking to basically any interesting like public figure that I wanted.
I like that. It's cool that it evolved. Sometimes you start one thing and it just winds up being something different. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you can evolve with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I get to, I get to talk to people that I look up to, in a sense. I wouldn't say, like, some that I look up to, some like music artists. I listen to their music. I've seen in a couple instances, I've seen them on Netflix shows, and then now they're on a one-on-one Zoom talking with me for my podcast, and I'm like, this is awesome, and I'm making connections with them. And so, like, if anyone's a hip hop and rap fan, again, proving that I'm not anti hip hop, I was and still am a giant fan of Netflix's show Rhythm and Flow, which was like basically a rap version of like The Voice. It was like a rap performance / competition show, and I've had multiple like I would say contestants from it come on and talk to me because maybe they didn't win or go very far, but they were like artists that I really liked listening to on the show and have followed their careers since then.
Yeah. I'm adding things to my real good to watch later now.
All right. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's neat that you're able to kind of evolve with it, to say like this. Yeah. I'm gonna pivot to this. It's good. I know a lot of people started things during the pandemic and either kind of fizzled out or it didn't quite work out the way that they wanted, and a lot of them just quit. And I even took a break. Like, I started my show before the pandemic, but I had like 6 or 7 guests in a row cancel because they got COVID. And I got so discouraged. I only do it once a week, so it's not like I have a bunch of them banked or anything. And I got so discouraged, and I was like, I just need some time off. And I took a good 6 months off from it. And it's hard. It can get really hard. You can get really discouraged. Yeah. So I am really glad that you were able to grow with it and kind of pivot with it. That's really cool.
Yeah. And fortunately, I was in a great situation where, like, basically everything I do now started in the pandemic. It wasn't put on hold or like ended by it. It's like I was put in my room with my computer that had all my music files on it, and I was like, guess I'll do this. I couldn't go outside and see people and make connections, so I was like, guess I'll talk to people over Zoom and put it on YouTube. And so all these things that now I really want to grow to be like the main things that I do in life were started from the pandemic.
Yeah, that's neat. So if you weren't doing the things that you're doing now, let's say there was never a pandemic. If you weren't doing what you do now, you had never taken that class in school, what would you be doing instead, do you think?
I don't think I would successfully be doing it, but I'd probably still be trying to. I would say until the age of 14 or so, I was dead set on becoming an NBA player. And I knew that I really wanted to play basketball and that I really liked it. And then I was, getting ready for high school and still wasn't really that tall yet, and realizing that everyone in the NBA was pretty tall because they call the 6'2" guys the short ones. And I was like, you know what? I being like the driven person I was like, you know what? Next level down. I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to go next level down and be like, G League. That's fine. And then I realized like that, you play basketball professionally, you can get to the NBA from that, but it's not, I don't want to say not a living or like you're not able to live off of it, but it's like it just didn't seem realistic or something that I really wanted to do. And so yeah, thankfully it happened, but once I took that digital music class, it was over. It was like, yep, you're telling me I can take two songs that I love and put them into one song? Over. Give me that.
That's it. That's what I'm doing. I love it. That's really cool. Well, it is time for the magic moment of the stream. So I have a magic wand here. Oh no. Oh, there it goes. I thought it wasn't going to light up. So I have a magic wand here. So if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory around talking about mental illness, disabilities, or mental health, what would you eliminate? And I'll just give this a wave and hand you the floor.
Wow, that's a powerful magic wand.
I know.
I'd say I want to get rid of the misconception that it's permanent or something you live with, because yes, unfortunately there are times where that's the case, that like this is gonna be with you for life, and you're gonna hopefully not struggle, you're gonna hopefully deal with it and have it become part of your life, you're gonna live with it. But I feel like through emotional help, like connections we were talking about, through professional help if needed and therapy, you can start to better the issues or even hopefully resolve the issues you might be having. I don't think when someone says like, I've been anxious lately, or I've, maybe they're not diagnosed, but they're just feeling a little depressed, they can, it doesn't have to be like, well, I guess that's, with me now for the rest of my life. It doesn't have to be like, this is who I am. It can be, okay, what steps can I take to help and hopefully solve this problem? It happened for me. I was down and out after the move, and like I'm much better off now. It's not like that point is like the plateau forever. It got better because I made connections. I found things that helped my mental health and that made me passionate and positive. And yeah, so I just want to get rid of the misconception that some mental health things are permanent.
Yeah, it's easy to say like, "Oh, I'm depressed. That's what I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life." But there are plenty of ways to get help for most mental health things that come up. Maybe you have chronic depression. Maybe that is something you're going to live with for a while, but you won't know if you don't try to get help.
Yeah.
And even if it is something that you have to live with for a really long time, like for example, Tourette's is something that does not just go away, but it is a mental illness. And so there are treatments that if it's interfering with your life, you can get help for it. Absolutely. So
and it doesn't have to, you don't have to settle in life. You can be a Billie Eilish and go sell out Madison Square Garden. You can be this might be a bit of a more niche Twitch audience example, but you can be a sweet Anita and have
I love
a
sweet
streaming
Anita.
audience with Therese. Yeah, I love her too. Her content's amazing, but yeah, you can. It doesn't have to put a limit or a restriction on what you can do. You can find ways to succeed with it. Like, I guess we didn't get too into it, so I can just briefly touch on it now as we wrap up. But like my eczema, which you mentioned in my biography, for the longest time, I like didn't want to have my face out there, or like I was like, well, I can't, be an actor, can't be like a public musician, all these things, because I would go places and get looks or comments because there was redness over my skin. And that, I mean, it to the point where I would have podcasts scheduled and I'd BS some like technical issue to reschedule, but in reality it's because I would go on the Zoom screen and realize that you could see dry skin. And so you don't have to let it put a restriction on what you do. You can just accept it as part of you and let that just be part of you. Like, I'm sure there are people who have thought people with Tourette's can't perform music for a concert, like can't perform for an hour and a half. And then you look at Billie Eilish going on tour after tour just fine and topping charts and winning armfuls of Grammys because she didn't let it put a restriction on it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's great, and it's something that body image issues we were talking about just recently in Discord with someone who has an eating disorder, and she was struggling with body image issues one day this week. It's something that it's so hard to get past in your head too. It's just like, this is, no matter how you view me, I view myself differently because it's me. Everyone views everything through their own lens. And so like if you're fixated on dry skin or something like that, for me, like I have rosacea really bad, which you can't see because I wear makeup on Mondays. But if you look at one of my streams on a Wednesday where I'm not wearing makeup typically, and I'm drinking wine, like it's like freaking red bat wings on my face. And so it's one of those things that it's like, that bothers me. I don't think anybody else has even noticed, except for now they're going to because I've said something about it.
And it was hard for me to like, be okay with that being put out there because I was planning on like hiding it for as long as I can, and then, hopefully like coming out on stage at a concert one day and being like, surprise. But like, yeah, like a couple years ago, I would say it went from, almost solely being like, I wear a lot of sweatshirts, sweatpants, longer clothes. So it was like on like the creases in my elbow. It's like, that's fine. I'll toss a hoodie on and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I would say probably a little over a year ago, it got to, it had moved around a bit on my body, but everywhere that was covered, and not everywhere at once, like had moved around to different spots, thankfully. And then, but like about like a year and a quarter, not to get too specific, but like a little over a year ago, spread to like facial area and like on my neck to the point where I'd be like at school and it'd be like, oh, you're like, what's that? I mean, not in like a mean way, but like, what's that red stuff on your face?
Yeah.
You're looking a little red. Like, is that okay? Like, is that normal? Are you okay? Nothing malicious, thankfully, but just in my mind being like, oh God, they can see it now. And like wearing now, like doing whatever I could to hide it. And so, thankfully, I've been doing what I can to try, you know, getting it back at control level, which has worked so far. And yeah, so it's definitely gotten better, and hopefully will continue to get better.
Yeah. That's really cool. I not that this is going to help necessarily, because not everyone can picture themselves as a cat, but I think that it was Bite Mark who, when we were talking about body image issues, suggested pretending that you're a cat, because cats think they are the bomb diggity no matter what they look like. Like, they do not care. They're like, I am the greatest. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm the best. So if you can view yourself as a cat sometimes, even if a cat has skin issues, they don't care. They're awesome.
That's great, and they may not care.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's now a good time to say that I'm allergic to cats.
Pretend that you're a cat who you're not allergic to.
Yeah, pretend I'm a hypoallergenic cat.
Yes, yeah. One of those, I was going to say skinless, but that's not right. Furless cats.
Yeah.
Which are creepy
Oh
looking.
my God. Like, yeah, someone I know a while ago, half jokingly, half serious, said they wanted a hairless cat. And I was like, please, God, no, don't get it. Don't become a movie villain with like the hairless cat in their lap.
That is maybe one of the signs of becoming a movie villain. That's true. Bite Mark pointed out that Watsky has a lisp also, and he's a poet and a rapper, so that's perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Bite Mark says, I just want to say thanks for being here. I had not thought so much about the production side of music before. If you give Watsky a shot, let us know how you like him. Welcome to the Family or Talking to Myself are good starting points. I agree. Welcome to the Family is one of my absolute favorite songs by Watsky for sure. So
great. Yeah, I'll check it out because, like I said, I love learning new music, and yeah, definitely seems like an interesting artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Heroek, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to open up to any remaining Q&A from the community. If y'all have anything, please just go ahead and type it into the chat, and I'll just give you the floor. Say if there's anything we didn't talk about, or any resources you want to throw out, or sites or personal information. I will post all of your socials one more time, but I'll just open the floor to you for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just get some quick plugs, quick promos out of the way. At Heroek YT on Instagram, because at Heroek was taken and I'm still trying to get it, but I'm not a big influencer, so Instagram doesn't help me as much. Heroek on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, everywhere you get music. There's a whole long list that I'm not going to go through because I don't remember them all. But basically, if it provides music, look up Heroek, Hero-E-K, and you'll hopefully find my music. I, have the solo stuff I was talking about, instrumental EP, Cerebria album. I have a couple of rap songs that I've produced with artists, so check those out. Really proving that I'm not anti-rap. So, yeah, check me out. It'd mean a lot. And again, if you want to ever reach out via Instagram, email, YouTube comments, even, I read those. So check them out. And yeah, can't wait to hear from anyone tuned in here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me a platform to do so.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, give me just a minute to disconnect with Heroek. And that's a wrap on this episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. I hope you enjoyed learning about the intersection of music production and mental health, and how music can be both a challenge and a source of healing for those in the industry. Remember, taking care of your mental health is crucial, and whether you are a musician or not, that remains true. If you are struggling, don't hesitate to reach out for help. There are resources and support available to you, and you do not have to face it alone. I hope today's episode provided an insightful look into the world of music production and sparked some thought-provoking questions. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear from you. So feel free to share your thoughts and experiences with me on social media or through our website, tacosfallapart.org. And if you found this episode helpful, please consider leaving a review or rating on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more people. As always, thank you for tuning in to Even Tacos Fall Apart. I appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in the future. Until next time, keep taking care of yourself, and remember, even when tacos fall apart, the music keeps us going.